Senator Cruz, welcome back to the program here. Congratulations on the Take It Down Act. This bill, as you and I discussed, did not pass in the last Congress, but you were
Yep.
determined not to let this thing go. Why did this piece of legislation mean so much to you? Was it because you're a father of two girls
Look,
yourself?
absolutely. And I got to say, it's hard to be a teenager. Jason, when you and I were teenagers, life was much simpler. Uh, Heidi and I, our girls are 14 and 17, and the pressures that kids have, that teenagers face, particularly online, the predators, the targeting, the abuse, it is horrific. And every parent I know struggles with how do you protect your kids? And the Take It Down legislation is legislation we saw real bipartisan
Mm.
agreement working together. I drafted this along with Amy Klobuchar, Democrat from Minnesota. And we were able to pass it through the Senate unanimously, 100-0. Every Democrat, every Republican came together. And then in the House, it passed overwhelmingly with a massive bipartisan vote. And I'll tell you, one of the things that really helped was the First Lady, Melania Trump, who decided earlier this year to lend her support and to really lean in. And that, for House leadership, helped it rise up the priority list in terms of what needed to get done this year. And the reason is we're seeing an explosion of in particular, women and teenage girls being targeted online. And they're targeted by non-consensual intimate images, either real pictures, so-called revenge porn, or more and more, we're seeing deepfakes, where someone uses artificial intelligence to create what appears to be a naked picture or an explicit video. And if you're looking at it, you think it's real, but it's totally fake. And as you know, the impetus for this legislation was a teenage girl in North Texas, Elliston Berry, who lives in Aledo. And when she was 14, she was a freshman in high school. She woke up one morning and her phone was blowing up. Her friends were texting her. And it turned out a classmate of hers had taken a perfectly innocent picture from social media, had used an artificial intelligence app online to create a deep fake and sent what appeared to be naked pictures of this teenage girl to all her classmates. And it was horrific, and Elliston was in tears. But she and her mom called my office. She's a constituent. And she said, look,
Yeah.
you're my senator. Can you help? And we drafted this bill because what happened to Elliston is happening to women and teenage girls and teenage boys all across the country.
And under this law, if this was enacted when that event happened to Elliston Berry and Alito,
Yeah.
would the person who did that have faced 3 years in prison?
Yes. Yes. No, this makes it a crime. It makes it a felony to post non-consensual intimate images. And part of the problem, so the state of Texas has a revenge porn law already.
Right.
So if you have a boyfriend and girlfriend and they take intimate images and then they break up and one or the other's mad and they say, all right, I'm going to get you, and they post it to the world. You don't have a right to do that. That is a grotesque violation of someone's dignity, someone's privacy. So that's already illegal in the state of Texas. But the Texas law does not cover deep fakes. It does not cover artificial intelligence. And so Elliston found in Alito that what happened, it wasn't against the law. It wasn't child pornography. Normally, if you send a naked picture of a child, that is illegal and you can face very long prison sentences for child pornography. But a deep fake didn't fall under this. And so the Take It Down law makes it now, it is a crime, a federal crime to post non-consensual intimate images. But the second part of this law that is hugely important is it puts an obligation on the tech platforms to take this garbage down. And I'll tell you, when I first met Elliston, she and her mom came up to my office in D.C. and we were announcing the bill. She was coming to the press conference. And we're sitting in my office and I said, hey, whatever happened to the pictures? And Elliston's mom, Anna, she was so frustrated. She said, this happened 9 months ago. For 9 months, she said, I've been calling, I've been emailing, and Snapchat will do nothing. I just face a stone wall. I turned to my staff. I said, I want you to get the CEO of Snapchat on the phone today. I want these pictures down today. Jason, within 2 hours, they pulled them down.
Hmm.
Now, it shouldn't take a sitting U.S. senator making a phone call on your behalf to get that garbage taken down. And now under the Take It Down Act, which is signed into law, if you are a victim of non-consensual intimate images, you have a federal statutory right to contact the tech platform to say, hey, that picture, that video, that's of me, and you don't have my consent, and they have a federal obligation to take it down.
I've seen political memes online. I'm sure you have too, showing deep fakes of elected leaders.
Yeah.
Even in the comments section on the X post that you have up there for this actual law itself. President Trump even suggested that he might use this new law for himself. Could it be used for political purposes as well?
No, unless you're making like pornographic images. This is keyed to intimate images. And so if you make, you may recall Senator John Fetterman, Democrat from Pennsylvania, was
Yeah.
going down to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, and the press was all Twitter that he was going to meet with President Trump, and they said, "Well, why are you doing that?" And Fetterman joked. He said, "Well, I'm going to ask him to make me the Pope of Greenland." And I'll tell you, I tweeted out an image. I used AI to create an image of John as the Pope of Greenland in a papal robe with polar bears behind him. That's perfectly legal. That's satire, free speech. That has nothing to do.
Okay.
That's totally different than the kind of abuse we're talking about. And that will remain everywhere you see.
How quickly do you expect enforcement to begin with the Federal Trade Commission?
Look, the chairman of the Federal Trade Commission was at the signing ceremony yesterday, sitting next to me. I know him well. He's a good guy. The FTC will take this seriously, and federal prosecutors. I expect to see federal prosecutions of people who violate this. You know, over 90% of those targeted with deep fakes are either women or teenage girls, and I think we need to be really vigorous protecting, particularly kids online. And I'll tell you, there's a lot more we need to do. That has been a real passion of mine, is protecting kids online. And with the success of Take It Down, I hope it brings us together to do more to keep our kids safe, because predators targeting our kids online is a huge problem.
Let's talk about universal school choice legislation. You've been trying to get this bill passed for several years now, for 6 years, I believe.
Yeah.
When I think of universal school choice, though, just that phrase itself,
Right.
I think about wanting to send my kids to whatever elementary school
Yeah.
that I deemed is best for them. How would this bill, though, help me do that?
Well, what this bill does is it creates a federal tax credit for contributions to scholarship granting organizations in the state. So if an individual or corporation gives money to a scholarship granting institution, you get a credit on your federal taxes. It's $10 billion a year, so it's $100 billion over 10 years. It's allocated among the states by population. So what that would mean for Texas, Texas is about a tenth of the population of America. So Texas would get about $1 billion a year in new scholarships, and there'd be scholarship granting organizations. So if you wanted your daughter or your son to go to a different school, you could apply and get a scholarship from a scholarship granting organization. So what this is doing is opening up a vast amount of resources, because I think, look, school choice for me is the civil rights issue of the 21st century. I think every child in Texas deserves access to an excellent education. And I think that should be regardless of your race or your ethnicity or your wealth or your zip code. It shouldn't matter if you live in a great neighborhood or a lousy neighborhood. Your child should be able to get a great education. And so freeing up scholarship resources so that kids can go to the school of their choice transforms their entire future.
And not to overstate or misstate here, but I don't think of scholarships for high school and elementary schools. I discovered they do physically exist, though. But is this legislation enough to stimulate $1 billion in new scholarships, do you think, in Texas?
Yeah, look, I think it is powerful. And when I say universal school choice, it doesn't mean a scholarship for every kid in America, because that would be very expensive.
Yeah.
What it means is that these scholarship funds are available to every kid in Texas, and it would be the scholarship granting organization that would be allocating them, but they're not limited. And look, part of the reason school choice is so powerful, and we've seen this. I will say this year, Texas passed an historic school choice legislation in Austin, and I played a very active part in leaning in and urging the legislature to pass this. Texas has already passed the biggest and boldest school choice plan in America, and this federal legislation would be supplemental. It would be on top of that. But we've seen there are about 30 jurisdictions across the country that have implemented school choice, and what we've seen is two things. Number one, when kids get scholarships and they go to the school of their choice, their test scores go up, their reading scores go up, their math scores go up, their high school graduation rate goes up, their rate of college admissions go up. But number two, and Jason, this is the powerful thing. When you have competition, when the kids have options, the public schools get better. Part of the purpose, in fact, right at the heart of the purpose of school choice, is to improve the public schools, because when faced with competition, we've seen it over and over again, the quality of education, the safety of students goes up when the parents and kids have other options, because then you've got to compete to keep the kids there.
And you played, I didn't realize you played a role in the legislation in Austin. Were you making calls? Were you down there at all?
I was doing all of that. So for 6 years, I have campaigned actively on school choice. And look,
Sure.
United States Senate, there are 100 U.S. senators. To the best of my knowledge, 99 of them stay out of primaries in their home state. And there's a reason for that, because frankly, it's politically stupid to get in the middle of primaries in your home state. There's an old adage that you get half their friends and you get all their enemies when you get involved. Now, not only do I get involved, I get involved a lot. And what I do every 2 years, I've done this now for 6 years, I have my team make an Excel spreadsheet of every vote that a state rep or state senator has cast on school choice. And if you voted in favor of school choice and you're otherwise relatively conservative, you're quite likely to get my support. If you voted against school choice, the chances of my supporting you are zero. And if you have anything resembling a credible primary challenger, I am going to endorse them. And when I endorse, I don't do so gently. I will spend money. I'll cut TV ads. I'll cut radio ads. And there are a whole bunch of state reps, Republicans, who voted against school choice. And I came in and supported their opponents. And we beat most of those state reps. And so in April, I went down to Austin. I was on the floor of the state house. I was in the speaker's office. And was whipping the House members and was encouraging them. Actually spent $250,000 earlier this year running online ads supporting House Republican freshmen who were supporting school choice, to say, look, you've got air cover. The teachers' unions are spending a bunch of money to come after you and attack you. Right. And I told a bunch of House Republicans, this will be the single most important vote you ever cast in the legislature. And I'm really proud. I'm proud of the state Senate. I'm proud of the House. I'm proud of the governor. This has been a fight for decades. And I've spent 30 years fighting for school choice. And so what happened in Austin really was an historic victory for the kids of Texas.
Senator, before I let you go, do you expect to make any endorsements at all in the U.S. Senate race?
I don't. John Cornyn and Ken Paxton, they're both friends of mine. I know them both very well. I've worked closely with both of them for over a decade. I like and respect them. I'm going to stay out of this one. I'm going to trust the voters of Texas to make their decision.
Senator, always good to see you. Thank you for the time. Congratulations again on the Take It Down Act.